Hello guys, everything alright? My name is Tamiris. I've been working with product management, technology, and growth marketing since 2016. And today I'm here to explore with you guys the comparison between Lovable and Bolt. So these are, I think, the two most popular tools for AI coding. And I've already tested, especially Lovable before, and I got pretty interesting results. So I'll explore a little bit with you, simulating, first of all, a very simple prompt, as most of you would probably utilize on a first trial of these two tools. And then I'll try to build a very simple app in both of them and see what are the main differences, the main advantages, benefits, and also where maybe each one of those shine in terms of design, in terms of functionality, in terms of interpreting my prompts, etc. So, without further ado, let's start. The application I thought about building is actually an expenses tracking tool. So let's try to do a very simple, straightforward prompt to start. So I will do exactly the same on both of them. It is important to say that I essentially have the paid version for the both of them. So we will get the results of a paid user. I'm using the monthly base plan. So let's check it out. Essentially, Bolt has a very interesting design over here. So it creates essentially the code already in front of you, shows essentially the code and the preview version. Usually the preview version is only available when it finishes creating the base code. And Lovable, in the other hand, doesn't show exactly how the code is being done. At least on the beginning, we just have these essentially animations saying spinning up reveal. So I will pause and get back when both of them are done. So Bolt was the first one to get the prototype in front of me. Essentially, Lovable is still working on it. It didn't take too long for Bolt to essentially show me a first version. Let me make it bigger so we can understand essentially what it did. So this is a very simple app, right? We just have one page centralizing everything, all the functionalities and all the UI. We have here total expenses, category breakdown. So it did suggest classifying the expenses into categories. So here is a description. Here's a description of a new expense, the amount. You already suggested some high-level categories like food and dining, transportation, utilities, entertainment, shopping, and other. The date, we can add the expense, and we have here a table with this information. So let's simulate maybe going for McDonald's. So we got like $20 over here, food and dining, and today. So here we have the date, McDonald's, food and dining, $20. Then we have the action of deleting if we want to. Here we have the category, but we don't have the exact expense. And that's essentially the 80-20 of the functionalities that they created with that simple prompt. So let's compare to Lovable. So the UI is very different. They do provide more, I would say, visualization. So they have different data visualization over here. They have some mock-up data also to show it, to show like the complete visualization, right? So they have some mock-up like electricity bill, monthly rents, blah, blah, blah. So let's test out to see how this works. Still kind of crashing a bit. So let's say $20. It's crashing. Okay, $20. McDonald's. They do have more categories, so food and dining, transportation, entertainment, shopping, utilities, housing, healthcare, travel, education, personal care, and other. So let's go food and dining. They have this additional field of payment methods. That's very interesting because this is something that we usually want to keep track of when we're tracking our expenses. So in terms of functionalities, it is more robust, right? So credit card, add expense. So we have also an interesting confirmation over here. Food and dining, expense, McDonald's, credit card. So here we can see the categories. So food and dining, transportation, etc. On this pie chart. We have monthly expenses. That's interesting. So this is way more robust in terms of data visualization than what Bolt provided us. So Bolt is essentially a table, right? But here we have like this division between the main categories. We have the monthly expenses, so we can keep track of the fluctuation of our expenses. We have the total spend, the average daily, which might be something that you want to keep track of. The top category, which again is something that you surely want to know when we are tracking your expenses. The number of transactions on a particular month. And then we do have, in theory, other essentially tabs over here, but they are not working. They are dummy tabs. So I'm clicking on them, nothing happens. Clicking on this one that is supposed to be kind of like an alarm or notifications, nothing happened. So the main difference between them on this first very simple prompt is the fact that Lovable is more robust in terms of UI and also in terms of UX, aka more functionalities and a better visualization of these functionalities, and essentially feeling better the purpose of what is a expenses tracker. But it is crashing way more than Bolt. So we saw potentially the whole application crashing a couple of times, and it created some components that are shallow components. They don't do any specific action when we interact with them. So essentially here I'm clicking on these tabs on the top and nothing happened. Although it's feeling better, the overall purpose of an expense tracker, it is quite crashy right now. So for Bolt, we didn't see any crashing experience. Okay, I'm not able to use the preview right now. So it is not crashing by any means. But it's very simple, right? Very, very simple. I didn't see the option of deleting expenses over here, so this is a wing for Bolt, essentially. Perfect. So let's play around with it and see how each one of these tools react to us adding different functionalities, right? So let's ask for them to essentially can you add the option example a table for dashboard for me, Tamiris, and one for my partner, Mike. So let's see how both of them react to a different request of adding a new functionality, right? So Lovable already crashed. Essentially, we got an error, build unsuccessful. We can try to fix it. So let's see, using the standard CTA, try to fix it. If it is able to do that without any major intervention. Lovable is still generating the code. I'm back. So Lovable is still crashing. Let's try to fix it again. Bolt was able to deliver me the functionality without any crashing, but as you can see, it is quite simple. The UI is not the prettiest by any means. So let's try to test to see if it actually works. So McDonald's, $20 for Tammy, and then let's go for my. Then let's go for I don't know, Burger King, $15 at expenses. So apparently it is working. It's not crashing. And they do show this view all, which is a more robust way to visualize what is going on. So here we have Tammy and Mai's expenses, and we can see the expenses by person, total expenses, and the category. So this is a quite interesting visualization. I think both did really well with this one. Let me go back to Lovable. Apparently Lovable was able to uncrash. So let's see how it is working and if it is working as expected. So here we have Tammy. We do have some dummy data over here, and we do have Mai and also other dummy data. So let's test it out. So $20, Burger King, food and dining, credit card. Let's go to Tammy, $15, McDonald's, food and dining, cash. So for Tammy, we have McDonald's cash, $15. For Mai, we have Burger King, we have food and dining, $20. But it did not create the all visualization, right? So essentially looking for the couple's expenses, me and Mai, it's just creating the individual visualization of the expenses. So we didn't go very far in terms of this functionality. So right now, again, overall thoughts. Lovable has a better UI. Lovable is more robust in terms of providing a better, more in-depth output from just one prompt, as we've seen. But it is, first of all, crashing a lot. And for additional functionalities after the first prompt, it is not as comprehensive as Bolt's. So we do need to take that into consideration, because depending on the application that you want to develop, if UI is very important, or if it is something very simple that you can manage to create in just a handful of prompts, then Lovable might be an interesting option. But if it is something that you need to iterate and create a lot of new functionalities on top of what you are creating, or if it is actually an app that you don't know exactly what you want and you will find out while you are developing the app, at least by this particular test, we're seeing better results with both. So I will try now to play a bit with just changing UI instead of changing functionalities, right? So let's say I would want the layout to be in dark mode. I would want the primary color to be black, and the secondary color, for example, utilized on graphs, to be green and variations of green. So let's test these with both of them and see how they react. They did take a while to implement the layout change, but apparently Lovable was able to do that without crashing, which is great. It is kind of buggy though, because it didn't change the font to being black when we hover the cost. We do have an interesting graph in green as I requested. Although these fake buttons still exist and they are quote unquote invisible because they are white in white. So it's not perfect on the very first attempt, right? Let's see boat. So first time boat is actually showing a problem. Let's try to fix it with a standard button attempt to fix. So boat is still crashing. I will attempt to fix again. Let's see what happens. I really hope it is able to fix without me having to jump into a more thorough debug. It should be something more straightforward. It's just a layout change, nothing very complex, but it's still crashing. I'll attempt a final time to fix it with the fix button. Yeah, it is not working. Let me try to do it in a different manner. I will utilize GPT to help me to understand what happened. So guys, I will update you on what I tried to do. So I tried to essentially update the code utilizing a bit of a debug with ChatGPT. Although I did tell it to implement some changes based on this conversation that I had with GPT, I wasn't able to actually fix it without having to essentially change the code. So what I did is that I utilized the feature discuss the problem to understand its, I'll call it debug rationale. So essentially it brings me kind of like a plan. And I can choose if I want or if I don't want to implement this plan. For some reason it's just crashing. So what we can do is that we can go back when we asked the app to change to dark mode, so we can roll back. And we can redo our request. So change the layout of the app to be primarily black and gray. So I slightly changed the prompt. Let's see how it goes this time. AI coding is a lot of debugging. So one thing that is important for us to understand, regardless of the tool, is that no tool nowadays is completely perfect and completely able to do an application without you having to interact with it, or without you having to essentially have better prompts. And each tool reacts into a particular way. As you've seen, Lovable was better at understanding what we wanted to change in the layout, and both didn't react well, so now we are trying to do a slightly different prompt to see what happens. And this is true for all the tools that are out there, at least the most common ones, like Lovable, Bolt, Replit, Cursor. Cursor is slightly different, it's more technical. But yeah, apparently Bolt is not dealing well with changing the colors, which is quite odd. This wasn't supposed to be a very big issue. One thing that I didn't like about Bolt, and I'm talking as a person that just like started to test it, is the fact that I'm not able to easily see the logs I'm able to have access to a terminal and access to the code, but it is not easy for me to understand exactly what is the issue. And Lovable shows that in an easier way. So for Lovable, we are essentially able to enable dev mode, and with that we do have access over here to the code, which is nice for us. And also when we did have this error, we were able to see it over here essentially, and we were able to understand how we wanted to resolve it essentially in a better way than apparently Bolt is able to provide us. I wasn't obligated to roll back essentially. Bolt is not responding well to this change by any means. So yeah, first impressions of Bolt, not very good, right? It crashed with a fairly simple request, and it wasn't able to fix the crash without me having to go to the code and change it myself. So essentially I tried to test the attempt to fix feature and also the discuss the problem feature. I tried to go with GPT and check just the specific error that it's telling me with this discuss problem, and then propose a solution here on this text box, but it wasn't able to do that well. And Lovable was able to do it, but not in a very consistent and interesting way. So there are other solutions of how we can actually develop a solution with better prompting. So now what I will do, just so you can observe it, is that I will actually make a better prompt right at the beginning so we can test to see if the output is better. Hey guys, so let's check out what happens when we have better prompting. I will do on both of the tools the same prompt. So both of them didn't react too well with very specific prompting for some reason, so I'm redoing the whole process. Actually, both did react well, but it essentially suggested for us to have a backend, so we have to connect to Subbase, which is a backend that we can essentially store our data. So for some reason it is showing some issues with connecting to Subbase. So let's see what happens. And I'm still waiting for Lovable. So essentially I already have something going on here for both. The UI is looking slightly better. It is following my instructions of being kind of like a dark mode, primarily black, dark colors together with green. So here I'm testing out to see what happens. 2025, okay. Donald, it's still looking quite similar to the first one that we created, but it's slightly better. It does have a filter here, paid, so it is looking slightly better, but it's still kind of crashing because the connection with Subbase is not 100% done yet, so I'm not able to add expenses. We do have different visualizations for different users though. Let's check Lovable. Let's see what it was able to tell us. So again, breaking, I'm gonna try to fix Subbase on Bolt, and I'm going to try to fix essentially everything on Lovable. So see you in like a minute or two. Just to contextualize you, right now what I'm doing over here is that I am essentially telling Bolt to save things locally instead of saving them on Subbase. So we won't have the technicalities of having to connect properly to Subbase, because that's a whole new area. I'll create a video on the future and I'll link it somewhere over here or here. To show how you can actually connect to Subbase, because that's a whole new other arena for us to work, and I just wanted to show you essentially what we were able to get with one prompt, but a better prompt than the one that we did previously. So right now, this is all that we got for both. So you can see that it's way better than it was with the first prompt, right? We do have a pie chart over here telling the category of the expenses. We do have monthly expenses being tracked over here, so we will see a tendency line essentially. We do have a table over here as we had before, but right now we do have the feature of showing if it is paid or unpaid, and also actions for editing an expense or deleting an expense. So you can see that compared to what we created with a simple prompt, it is way more comprehensive, and it also didn't crash as much as it was crashing when we were trying with a worse prompt and then building on top of the first prompt. For Lovable, we do have a better results overall, so let me refresh over here because I was playing with it while Bolt was thinking about disconnecting with Subbase and doing the local save. So here's what we got with Lovable. Let me bring myself over here. So essentially we have three different tabs: the overview, the expenses, and the charts, which now are working. So before we had tabs, but they were like fake tabs. They weren't working. I didn't do any extra work in terms of these tabs, just specified them on the first prompt. We do have here a summary essentially of what is going on with the expenses, so recent expenses, a timeline, so to speak. With the category, description, date, amount, status, paid, unpaid, and we do have the actions of editing or deleting, so we didn't have these before on our first version with Lovable. We do have these monthly trends, so this is one thing that I did, so I was playing a bit to understand if I am spending more or less depending on the month. So this is definitely one interesting feature when we are essentially utilizing these to understand if we are saving money, if we're starting to spend more money, etc. So this is something that I already specify on the first prompt. So for expenses, we have just a simple table over here, but it's looking very pretty. Like the hover is looking nice. Everything is following the UI that I specify in terms of being dark mode together with green. So this is interesting. And we have the chart, right? So we do have a daily expenses chart. So this is one thing that I also specify on the prompting. So it's looking way better over here. And we have the possibility of utilizing different users. So John, Jane, and also of course adding a new user if we want to. So for example, Tammy. And there you have it. We have Tammy right now. And of course we can add a new expense over here. The amount, the date, the category, the description, and if it was paid or not yet. And it's looking way, way prettier with this better prompting. We do have some bugs, so we have cancel over here 2 times, for example, but these bugs are very easy to fix. Overall, the application is looking quite nice. And even Bolt, that is a bit more like in terms of functionality is a bit more simple, even though I utilize the same prompt. It is looking better with a better prompting than it was on the first attempt, that we didn't think too much about the prompting. So if you want help to understand how you can actually utilize AI coding to create your own tools, you can schedule a call with me on the link down below. And if you want to see more about AI coding, about the best tools that you can utilize on your digital agency or consultancy, then make sure to subscribe, because I do a lot of content essentially teaching how I was able to scale my agency to past 6 figures, utilizing mainly automations, AI coding with a very small team of just 3 people. And I'm doing that with other companies. I already helped a couple of agencies to essentially multiply their ROI by up to 6 by utilizing automations, AI coding, and overall better systems. So if you want to know more about how you can implement that, please make sure to book a call with me on the link down below. See you on the next one. Cheers!